Okay, hi guys, another X-File for you. This is episode 16, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I went to Jamie's house and she did my hair, and I think I look... You know what? Whenever I feel like I look good, I'm probably gonna make a video, and I promised Jamie I would, because she curled my hair, and like... She's like one of the only people who watches these things. So, hi Jamie, thank you. This one's for you. Okay, so this guy, his name is also David, but I'm just gonna call him Seth because that was his middle name. So Seth was my first boyfriend. I was 16. The way that I met him was, he was a year above me in school. I was a sophomore in high school. It was like my first year at my new school after I left Ecuador. But yeah, he was a junior, I was a sophomore. And we met because there was like a play called 12 Angry Jurors, and I was in that play. I was one of the jurors. And, well, I had a crush on two guys at the time. I realize how, like, crappy I sound as I talk more. The more episodes I make, the more I realize how crappy I am. So, like, there was two guys at the time. There was Roberto, who you will meet in the next episode, and there was Seth. So, Seth, what is it? Yeah, so I had a crush on both of these guys at the time. This Roberto kid, he like flirted with me a lot, and I liked him, but I also liked Seth at the same time. And I guess I was just trying to figure out who's gonna ask me out first. I don't really remember. Also, my computer's right in front of me for my notes. But anyways, so I would kind of flirt with him, and he was really, really nice. And then, it was the day of the play, and so, yeah, it was... Well, side note, he was a really big Beatles fan, and we always kind of got into like a little argument of who was better. I said the Ramones, he said the Beatles. But, okay, so anyways, it was the day of the play. And I forgot if it was like the first day of the I think it was like the last performance day. And then after the play was over, he pulled me aside and oh, you know what? No. Let's backtrack. So we met because of the play, and again, at the time I had Facebook. We would chat back and forth every now and again. And then there was like a Operation Christmas Child thing that a lot of us, There was like at my school we had to do community service hours, and there was an opportunity to work at the Operation Christmas Child warehouse. The whole day, Seth and I hung out. We sat next to each other on the bus. We hung out the entire time at the warehouse. We had lunch together, and we sat next to each other on the bus going back. Okay, so then the play happened. It was the last performance of said play. I think there was like 5 of them. I don't even remember. But he's a drama kid. But he pulled me aside, and he was like, hey, so I really like you. Do you want to go out? And I was like, okay. Because Seth is a really, really, really sweet guy. And so I was like, wait, no. I have to ask my dad. Or you have to ask my dad. So he was like, okay. So he went up to my father, and he was like, hi, I'm asking permission to go out with your daughter. And I thought that was the sweetest thing in the world. And my dad was like, yeah, sure. Later on, he told me the only reason why he said yes was because of peer pressure. However, there was only I think it was his mom was there and 3 other junior hires. So it wasn't that many people, but my dad just told me later on the only reason why I said yes was for peer pressure. So, gosh, so we went out for, it was 2 months. Our first date was to Our first date was to Universal Studios. My dad had an extra ticket or something, and he was like, hey, ask David to come with us. So my dad chaperoned my first date to Universal Studios. And the thing is, David and I, Seth slash David and we hung out together the entire day, but then my dad, like, was just kind of off to the side doing his own thing. And I remember that he and I, like, we felt really awkward and we felt really bad for my dad because we were together, but my dad was over there doing whatever it was. He was doing something. But, okay, side note, at the Mummy ride at Universal Studios, you can do single rider, and the line is way shorter. And so I just, kind of a tidbit I remember, I was like, hey, why don't we just do single rider so we don't have to wait in the whole line? And he's like, no, but I want to sit next to you on the ride. So we waited an hour to get on the ride when we could have waited only like 10-20 minutes. But whatever, like, I thought, like, he probably thought that was sweet. And you know what? It is kind of a sweet thing. So, moving on, I remember for Christmas, let's see, yeah, we started going out on Christmas around, like, we started going out in December, and he made me a really, really sweet card for Christmas. It had pie in it, like, it had a picture of pie in it, and he was a really good artist. And I remember one time I asked him to draw me a picture of a cow eating a hamburger, which he did. And for my for what's it called, for Christmas, I wanted to go over to his house on Christmas Day, and I thought my dad was totally fine with it, because I told him beforehand, I told him like a couple days before, like, hey, I want to go to David's house for Christmas. And my dad was like, okay, sure, whatever. But then on Christmas Day, I was like, okay, can I go to David's now? And my dad was just like, no, you're going to your family's house. And I was like, okay, but I told you, like, a few weeks ago that I wanted to go to Seth's, David slash Seth. And my dad said no. And then he was like, you know what, just do whatever you want. But it was like one of those parent things where they're like, I'm going to say do whatever you want, but what I really mean is do what I tell you. So I didn't get to see him Christmas Day. However, I saw him like 1 or 2 days later. And for my Christmas present, he was really sweet, and he got me a Rocky Horror Picture Show shirt, which is one of my favorite movies. And it was a white shirt with Dr. Frankenfurter's face on it, and it said, how do you do? It was an extra large, though. So, yeah, there was that. And he was just like, I'm so sorry. I tried to look for one that was your size, but that was the only one they had. So, whatever. And his family's really, really sweet. I do, like, you know, him and his entire family are, like, you know, they're, like, some of the sweetest people in the world. And another thing, on Valentine's Day, I decided to make him sugar cookies. And I asked my friend Crystal, hey Crystal, I asked her, like, hey, you know, you're really good at baking. Do you think you can give me, like, a sugar cookie recipe and, like, a little, like, a cookie cutter in the shape of a heart? And so she hooked me up. I didn't get to make him Valentine's Day cookies on Valentine's Day for whatever reason. But I gave it to him a couple days later, and I put it in his locker. And I just remember that on Valentine's Day itself, I was just kind of like, I remember I was ranting to one of my friends. I was just like, you know what? I don't even care if David gives me cookies. I don't even care, blah, blah, blah. And he was like right there with like a sad look on his face. But he bought me like you could send like sodograms on Valentine's Day in my high school. So he got a sodagram, sent it to himself, and then he gave it to me personally because rather than getting me the balloon attached to it, he made me a rose out of paper. And I still have that. And I thought that was really sweet. But yeah, so I made David these cookies, and they were sugar cookies, and I tried to make them into the shape of a heart, and I put them in his locker. But when I was making these cookies, like, I remember my dad was so mad, like, not mad, but he was really annoyed because he was just like, Kim, I've known you for 16 years and you've never made me cookies from scratch. You always make me the box cookies or like the cookies, or you have pre-made cookie doughs. But this guy, you only known him for a couple months, yet you're making him cookies from scratch. And I remember that. He was like really annoyed, and he still kind of hasn't, well, he's forgotten about it, but at the time he was really, really mad. And let's see. So, oh yeah, side note, after Universal Studios, we went to my favorite Chinese place, and then he met my mom. For Christmas, though, I forgot what I got him, but I remember my mom got him a really, really, really nice watch. Let's see. So, there's that. I told you about Christmas, told you about Valentine's Day. I remember when we were first going out, because, you know, it was that time for him where he had to, like, investigate colleges. And then I said, you know what, I'm terrible at this. I said, you know what, Seth, just go wherever you want. Don't make me, just because I'm in your life, don't make me hinder your college plans. If you want to go to India, go to India. And I remember that very, very clearly. Also, I remember that I was trying, because Megan, you know, Megan's my best friend in the entire world, and I was trying to figure out how I was going to, like, balance between hanging out with Megan and hanging out with my new boyfriend. One thing that, like, really bothered me about him, though, was I would always call him, I would always text him. He, like, never responded. That really pissed me off. Like, the communication between us was really, really poor. Like, I would call him on his cell phone, I would call his house. Nothing. I remember one time, like, I was calling him on his house and on his cell phone, but he wouldn't answer. And then I was on Facebook, and then I saw his mom was on, and I was like, hey, how's David? Is he all right? What is he doing? And she's like, oh yeah, he's good. He's just playing video games with his sister right now. And I'm just like, really? Like, your girlfriend is calling you, and like, you're not exactly that busy, you're not gonna call her back? Just like, I was kind of hurt by that, because, you know, you're my boyfriend. You can at least text me like, hey, can you at least say I'm busy or something? But I remember, like, one day specifically, I was just sitting next to him, and I was like, look, David, honestly, I'm not happy. And I told him point blank, because I was really frustrated. Like, the communication between him and I were, like, was super poor. I would call him a lot, he wouldn't answer. I would text him, he wouldn't answer. It was just really frustrating. And also, there was another... God, I'm terrible. I was 16 at the time. Just want to make that point really, really clear. And the thing is, like, David wasn't really giving me the attention that I wanted, but this other guy, who you will meet in the next episode, Roberto, he was giving me attention. And so I felt bad, because one time I was talking about kissing with Roberto, and then, like, the next day I apologized to David, and I was like, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't be talking about kissing with anyone who's not my boyfriend. So, yeah, that was a thing. So, let's see. I remember that my dad, he was, like, okay with me dating him, but my mom was like, no, I don't see why you're dating anyone. You are too young. And she wrote me, like, I remember she wrote me a letter, and she wrote specifically, like, honestly, I don't think that this is a good move for you. I don't think it's a good decision, and I think you need to break up with him. And she even kind of wrote down, like, how I should break up with him, and I was like, gee, Mom, thanks for, you know, being so supportive or whatever. Yeah, so I just, like, that was kind of like a big thing. And also that kind of goes on now. Like, if I tell my parents that I like someone, my dad's kind of like, okay, but my mom's just like, I don't see why you're doing that. You shouldn't be dating whatsoever. So, yeah, let's see. I remember, like, one time I just sat down with my dad, and I was just like, Dad, and I told him, like, Dad, I'm not happy because he's, like, not giving me the attention that I want. And my dad was just kind of like, hey, you know, it's okay. He's a kid. Just wait a little bit and see how it goes. You're probably fine. And then, like, a week after that conversation between my father and I, he pulled me aside and he was like, hey, you know what? I think we should break up. Like, you're cool and all, but I don't really see you in my future. And honestly, like, I was kind of shocked, but at the same time, I was really relieved. Because, like, it wasn't working. We weren't communicating well. It was just kind of hard. And it was more work than I thought. It was more work to have a boyfriend than it was to, like, be by myself. Because, again, the whole communication thing really bothered me. So, yeah. Let's see. My notes. Yeah, so after 2 months of dating, he and I broke up. He broke up with me, but honestly, I was kind of thinking about it anyways. Our first date was Universal Studios. That was kind of like, in a way, my first date ever. But, you know, I was in high school at this time. And I remember that he was in like a play at a different time. Yeah. He did another play after he and I broke up, and he was in the play, and I was like sad the entire time. And I was with Megan and our other friend Tiffany, and Tiffany's like, what's wrong? And then Megan said out loud, she's sad because she misses David, and his sister was sitting right behind me, and I was like, oh crap, I really didn't want her to hear that. So anyways, there came a time where after we broke up that I went through like a really depressed period, and I was telling Megan how I was feeling, and she said, honestly, Kim, I think you like the idea of him more than you like him. And honestly, first off, I have the best fucking friend in the world. Second off, like, she made a very good point, and like that quote or phrase that she told me back in high school has like clung on to me for a while. Whenever I see someone that I like, I ask myself, do I like the idea of having a boyfriend, or do I like this person? I just have a very wise friend who gives me very, very sound advice. So he and I broke up, but we were still like, you know, we didn't hate each other. It just didn't work out, and we were still nice to each other. And after that, we didn't even really talk. Like, honestly, the only reason why we talked was because we were in the play together. But yeah, like, there's no from my side, and probably and most likely from his, like, there's no animosity toward, like, between us whatsoever. I do remember this very clearly though. The day of his graduation, I went because, you know, like, I think, like, I had another friend graduating at the time. He went up to me, like, when he graduated, he went up to me and he grabbed me by my shoulders and looked me straight in the face, and he said, "You are an amazing woman." And I think that was like one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me. And it was really cool because, you know, like, we dated. I was in high school, so I'm not really sure if it was, like, it wasn't serious. I was in high school. Like, we dated, and it didn't work out, but we were mature enough to just kind of be like, you know what, whatever. Like, again, there's no animosity towards him and I. And it means a lot to me that he was able to come up to me and just grab me by the shoulders and tell me that. I think that that is one of the nicest things that anyone's ever done. But yeah, that very day, the day of his graduation, he started going out with my friend Crystal. And Crystal is like one of the coolest people in the world. I recently found her on Instagram, and I'm so happy that I got to reconnect with her. So hi Crystal, I hope you're watching this, and I'm gonna tell you about it right now when I'm done filming. But yeah, so he started going out with Crystal, and the thing is, like, I would talk to her about it, and she had the exact same problems that I had. Like, the communication between those two was like really, really difficult and almost non-existent from what I remember her telling me. And so, you know, the guy is really bad at communication, like really, really bad, apparently. But I remember her telling me that she heard from one of our friends, who was also a friend of his, that like he didn't really like us. He wanted to be friends with us, but rather than being friends, something in his brain flipped and he was tricked by his own brain into thinking that he liked us as more than friends. So yeah, I don't even know, but they broke up. But it was kind of funny because David ended up going to Biola for a year. But from what I understand, he had to leave due to financial stuff. And, like, honestly, at Biola, like, that's, like, the number one reason why people leave. A lot of people leave because of financial stuff, like, point blank. Anywho, he met a girl at Biola, and I'm pretty sure they're still together. I think they're at 3 years now. I've seen him on Biola campus a couple times to visit his girlfriend. And, like, you know, when I see him, I go up and I say hi. Like, we're not best friends or anything like that, but, you know, we'll just go up to each other and be like, oh, hey, what's up? But I remember, like, one time, like, they were in the cafeteria, and I went up and, like, I sat at their table, and I was like, hi, how's it going? And, like, it's not like they ignored me, but they're like, oh, hi, and then they just, yeah, they pretty much ignored me, but whatever, that's cool. So, yeah, that's the story of my first boyfriend. Again, like, I have nothing but great things to say about this kid. He's a really, really sweet guy. And, yeah, no animosity at all. Like, if anything, I probably was the bad person in the whole thing because I kind of stepped out of the relationship to flirt with someone else. So, yeah. But Seth/David is one of the sweetest people I've ever come across, and I'm glad he was in my life for a short period of time. So thank you for watching this long 22-minute episode. Have a great day. Bye.